Hello and welcome to Mysteries of Science. My name's Dan and I'm the editor of Science and Nature, the monthly magazine from the team behind The Week Junior.
And hi everyone, I'm Jenny, the features editor. On this podcast, we explore the strange phenomena and bizarre events that have left scientists scratching their heads and, despite their best efforts, remain well and truly unsolved.
Do you have a mystery that you'd like to know the answer to? If so, well, why not send it to us at hello@science-nature.co.uk, or you can send us a voice note by visiting funkidslive.com/mysteries. And no matter what the question, we'll get it answered.
Today, we're investigating the world's oldest murder mystery. It's Otzi the Iceman.
Yeah, Otzi is a person. He is. Who died and was mummified, which means preserved, more than 5,000 years ago. He was found frozen inside a glacier in 1991. And ever since, experts have been trying to figure out what happened to him and what were the mysterious circumstances of his death. Ooh. So, Jenny, let's grab our magnifying glasses, put on our Sherlock Holmes hats and try and crack the case. This is Mysteries of Science.
So, Dan, if we're going to work out what happened to Otzi the Iceman, first we need to find out a little more about who he was.
You are dead right, Jenny. And luckily, I know just the person to help us out.
Hi, I'm Lars Pilø. I'm an glacial archaeologist. I work in Norway, and my job is basically to look for artifacts or objects that melt out of the ice in the high mountains.
Yes, Lars, thanks for joining us. You mentioned glacial archaeology there. Can you tell us a little bit more about that, please? What exactly is it?
Yeah, glacial archaeology is a new field in archaeology that has developed due to climate change. So the ice in the high mountains is melting, and it turns out that this has become a boon to archaeology. That was rather surprising. But it turns out that people have been using the high mountains a lot more in prehistory than we thought before the ice started melting. So we have found lots of finds. We have nearly 4,000 finds just from our county alone here in Norway.
Oh, wow, 4,000 finds. That's amazing. So tell us about Otzi, when and where he was found.
Yeah, Otzi is an astounding find. He was discovered on the 19th of September in 1991 by a German couple that was out hiking on the border between Austria and Italy. And they were trying to take a shortcut, and when they did that, they went past a gully which was filled with ice. But out of the ice, a human head and the upper part of the shoulders was sticking. And that was Otzi. Of course, he was later called Otzi by an Austrian journalist. We don't know his real name, but we'll stick to Otzi here.
Blimey, that sounds absolutely chilling.
Oh, in more ways than one.
Hey, good one there, Jenny. Yes, I see what you did there. We found out where and when Otzi was discovered, but I'm wondering when people realized just how old he was.
There were some artifacts found. And when an Austrian archaeologist, Konrad Spindler, saw those artifacts, he immediately realized that the ice mummy had to be at least 4,000 years old. And later, of course, with radiocarbon dating, it was shown that he was 5,300 years old. It was especially the axe with the shaft still on it and with the leather wrappings and the copper blade, which immediately showed that he had to be old.
It's so incredible that we can find out how old someone was just by looking at the objects they had on them. But I wonder what happened to him. Why was he buried in the ice?
Yeah, well, that's still a mystery. So what we know is that Otzi he came from the south, from the valley to the south, called the Schnalstal, and he went up into the high mountains, and we can sort of follow his journey in the mountains through flower pollen and tree pollen, which was found in his gut later on. So we could see that he was in the low valley, then he went up to the high mountains, back down again and up again. And during that time, or just before that time, he had been in some kind of fight because he had a deep cut to his right hand between his index finger and his thumb, probably with a knife. And so he went up to the high mountains, and when he came to the spot where he was found later, it's called the Tiesenjoch, he was killed by an arrow which hit him in the back, in his left shoulder. It went inside and it caught one of the main arteries that goes through the shoulder there, and he would have bled to death within just a couple of minutes. But why he was attacked or why he was in a fight, we don't know that.
Wow. Okay. There's a lot of mysteries in there still to be solved. So we know that Otzi got into a fight, but we don't know who he was fighting and we don't know why he was fighting.
Yeah, so what do we know then? We know how old the body is and what objects he had on him. How about what he would have looked like? Do we know that?
Yeah. So Otzi, in general, you can say that Otzi would have looked a lot like humans do today. Of course, his clothing was completely different, but sort of as a person, he would look much the same thing. When the mummy was measured, it was 154 centimeters, so quite short. But it has shrunk due to the drying out. So he was probably about 160 centimeters tall at the time. And he had sort of semi-long hair, probably a beard, and he had tattoos. So that's also interesting. And he was probably in his 40s if you judge from the wear of his bones. So I think if he had worn normal clothes, nobody would have looked at him on the streets of London, for instance.
So yeah, I was reading this study recently which revealed that our initial ideas, how people used to think Otzi would have looked like, might not actually have been accurate. Can you shed any more light on that, please, Lars?
Yeah, I think there is still, I call Otzi the gift that keeps on giving. Because, and as you mentioned, the DNA study that was done recently, where they first decided that there was an old DNA study, and that had not been done properly. There was probably some kind of pollution of the sample. And then they could show that if you look at the reconstruction of Otzi, which is at the marvelous exhibition at the Otzi Museum in Bolzano in northern Italy, he has a quite light skin color. And the new DNA study showed that is probably not correct, that he had a darker skin color than he's shown on that.
Wow, the Otzi Museum in Italy sounds amazing. I wish we could go there.
Absolutely amazing. Yeah, well, be careful what you wish for, Jenny, because our very next guest is going to give us something like a guided tour.
Yeah, so my name is Laura Debacci. I work at the South Tyrol Museum of Archaeology. I'm a tour guide here. I've worked here for a long time, probably about 10 years off and on. I had a period of time where I left and did other things, and then I came back a couple of years ago. So I'd say about 10 years. And I really enjoy it. It's a really great job. It's actually quite a lot of fun and super, super interesting. And I get to meet lots of nice people as well from all over the world who come here to the museum to see Otzi.
Oh, hi, Laura. So how long has Otzi been at the museum for?
Yeah, he's been here since 1998. He was found in 91 by a couple of German hikers. They were up on the mountains, on holiday, and they found him. And then he actually stayed for 7 years in Austria. So he came here in 1998, and he's been here ever since.
And I'd love to know what people see when they come into the museum. What does the Otzi exhibit look like?
Okay, so he's kept in a prototype cold chamber made especially for him. because he is also unique. He's a 5,300-year-old, what we call damp mummy. He still has some liquid, some water in the cells in his body. So it's really important that he's kept in a damp environment. So he's kept at between 98 and 99% humidity level and at -6 degrees. Obviously, the air in the chamber is filtered, so there's no bacteria or fungi or anything like that. So he's kept in a sterile environment and -6, but really the most important parameter is the humidity.
And whereabouts in the museum is he, Laura? Can you paint a picture for us as if we were there?
Good question, actually. Yeah, he's on the first floor of the museum. Him and all of his things, all of his clothing and everything. But he is slightly out of the main exhibition area because we didn't really want to put him in the middle, obviously. So he's slightly hidden away, and sometimes people don't actually find him. And you look at him through a little window. The window's quite small. I'm not actually how big in centimeters, but it's pretty small. Two people can look at him at the same time, but three not. So you look into this little room. It's about 5 meters squared little room. Looks like an igloo. It's all made of ice. There's tiles of ice on the wall. And he's laying down. He's laying on his back. And he lays on a precision scale. So his weight is monitored 24/7. Looks like a glass plate, but it's actually a scale. So he's constantly being monitored. And he's pretty close to you. Like when you look into the window, he's not that far away from you. So, yeah.
And what about his clothes? What does that look like? What's he wearing? And also, yeah, I guess do his clothes tell us anything about who he was? What sort of person he was?
So the clothing, like I said before, it's the oldest complete set of clothing in the world, and it's all made of animal skins. So no textiles, but all animal skins, which would have kept him super warm in the mountains, obviously. And he has a really nice hat, and it's made of brown bear. I've actually got one here, and I know it's a podcast, so but it's a very furry brown bear hat. And the clothing is pretty interesting as well, because they've all been sewn together with animal sinews. So they use tendons and ligaments to sew their clothes together. And the hat, we think, is probably a hunting trophy, because it's the only piece of clothing made of bear. The other clothing is all made of domesticated animals, because obviously they were farming already at this time. And his clothes were made of goat and sheep and cow's leather he had as well. But yeah, as a hat, he had a bearskin hat to show, I guess, how good he was as a hunter.
And you've got his objects on display as well. What are those like?
His weapons are really, really, really nice. He has a long bow, which is enormous. It's a foot taller than him. He was a pretty small guy. He was 5'1"-ish, 1.60 m. I think that's about 5'1". And he had a bow that was 1.81 m, so like 6'1". It's enormous. So he must have been really strong just to be able to use it. And the arrows are also really, really nicely made. They still have arrowheads made of flint stuck onto them, and feathers, 5,300-year-old feathers still stuck on the arrow shaft. The arrowhead that killed him is still in his shoulder. They didn't take it out. They left it in there. It was too invasive to take it out. And it's similar to the ones that are on his arrows here. The copper axe is also really special. It's the only complete copper axe in the world, the oldest one, because normally, obviously, you can find the blade, but you never find the haft. And that's also made of the same wood as the bow. It's made of yew.
It's absolutely amazing, isn't it? That his body and all of his, all his items, I guess, the things he was wearing, the things he was carrying, that they're so well preserved, and that, well, we're still learning so much about Otzi. But, it's another question. Don't you wish you could just go back in time and speak to him? What about you, Jenny?
Oh, I'd love to go back in time and actually meet him face to face. And I wonder what our experts would ask if they could speak to him.
Yeah, I think I would like to hear his life story. Where was he born? I mean, we can study that through isotopes and how it, but still hearing it from him, where he was born, what kind of society he lived in, how he made his living, and of course, especially what happened to him.
I think more than actually asking him a question, I'd just love to travel back to that time and actually see what everyday life was like. I'd probably ask him, take me through your everyday. Explain to me what you do, from the moment that you wake up until the moment that you go to sleep at night. It would just be super interesting to know how they led their lives, just like I said, the really everyday little things.
What would you ask him?
I think I'd ask him what happened, what he was up there for, and how he died.
Oh, yeah, it's a very
What would you ask
caring.
him?
It's a very caring question. What's up? You all right?
Yeah.
I would ask him what he was doing up there in so few clothes.
Yeah.
I mean, like, he needs to wrap up a little bit warmer.
Must have been freezing.
So right now it is that time in each episode when we get out our trusty mysteryometer. This is our old and ancient machine with a scale running from 0 to 100. 0 is that we know nothing, and 100 means that we know everything. Case is closed. No more to find out. So, Lars and Laura, where are we on this scale, this mysteryometer scale? How much do we know about Otzi the Iceman?
I think that Otzi has been incredibly well studied. There are so many scientific studies of everything from his nails to his equipment to where he was found and the area around it. So I think that even though there are still some mysteries to be solved, I think I would probably put him at 80, I think.
I think he's probably one of the most studied mummies in the world, if not the most studied mummy. So on many levels, we're quite near the 100 scale. We know a lot about him. But about his murder, we don't know very much at all. But I'd say we were quite high up on that scale, probably 70-ish. We know quite a lot about him, yeah. But obviously we don't know, like I said, we don't know what language they spoke. We don't know his name. We don't know his role in his community. We think he could have been somebody of a reference point for his tribe because of his age. He could have been, like I said, quite high rank in his tribe. But yeah, some things we're really in the dark about, obviously. But as far as the mummy is concerned, he's been extremely well studied. But who the man was, we're more like on a 30 or a 40.
Oh, wow. So we know a lot about the mummy, but not so much about the man.
Yeah, despite being so closely studied, we may never, ever know what happened to Otzi the Iceman. But, well, do you have a theory? Our listeners, I'd like to hear what you think might have happened to him. Send us a voice note at funkidslive.com/mysteries. You can do that quite easily by hitting the big red button, or you can send us an email to hello@science-nature.co.uk.
Yeah, we're taking a little mid-season break now, but keep an eye out over Christmas for a special bonus episode.
Yeah, I can't wait. We're going to be releasing some extra snippets from our expert interviews, sharing some of our highlights of the year, and yes, dragging out some unheard bits from the archives.
Brilliant. Sounds great, doesn't it?
Yeah. Until then, stay curious.
Stay curious.